Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here at my next Avatar Weekly Discussion topic video. This one is going to be my top 5 Legend of Korra episode list. Next week I'm going to do my top 5 Avatar The Last Airbender list. And from there we'll get back to kind of more usual discussion topics and we'll see where we go. But yeah, let's just get straight into this list. I believe I've done a video like this before, so the video may end up being similar to that one. But I probably have changed at least some of the positions on this list. So let's just jump straight in. I'm going to go 5 to 1. So we're going to end with my favourite episode, start with the 5th. So number 5, When Extremes Meet, K108. I really like this episode. The main reason is that I think it's a really important Tarlok episode. And I think Tarlok at this stage of the season, like this episode and the next one where he's basically taken out, are really well done because you're kind of setting him up in the city that like he is gaining power kind of in a legal way. Like he's okay, some of the things he's kind of implementing they seem very anti-non-bender, so he's kind of the exact opposition to Amon. That he's kind of treating all non-benders as if they support this revolution, whereas it's not. And he takes some extreme measures in terms of dealing with them. And he really kind of sets himself up here as a kind of big villain that, oh wow, you're setting Amon up as a big villain just after what he's just done. And now Tarlok is doing something big. And this is when Korra comes into opposition with him. In that Tarlok wants her back on the task force. She doesn't want any of that now after what's happened. And it just comes to this big media battle, basically, where they both try to get the one-up on each other. Korra has just formed Team Avatar. She's doing good in the city, and she's getting a lot of media attention. Tarlok is making these big moves. He's getting attention for that, and is kind of getting in the way of Korra doing stuff. She's getting in the way of him doing stuff. And they both just get more and more angry at each other but they can't fight each other in public. There's that great scene where all the cameras are out, like everyone's looking at Korra, and she's basically just about to go for Tarlok, but realizes that even though he's taken her friends away to prison, she can't fight him in the streets. Otherwise she'll look bad, but equally so, whenever she gets the advantage, he can't attack her because she's the Avatar. He can't just put her in prison, and otherwise he'll look bad. So it all comes to a head. Korra marches into his office at night time to demand he release her friends, and we just get what is basically one of the most violent bending fights in like the entire show. I think reflecting on it now, like obviously there's some pretty violent stuff in like book 3, but in terms of just a bending battle where it doesn't end in the death of a character, this one is really big, and that they go for it here. People are getting hurt. Like Korra's getting cut by the icicles that Tarlok's firing at her. She is going crazy with the earthbending here. It's like she's blowing up this entire building, his office. She sends like a whole wall at him. She knocks out an entire floor of a building to basically send him down to the ground. And then Korra is basically about to kill Tarlok here. Like she goes at him with firebending when he's basically defenseless. What was she planning to do? It was definitely a big moment of like Korra going to an extreme here. This is why it's called When Extremes Meet. But the extreme that Tarlok goes to, revealing to us he's a bloodbender, that is such a big reveal. And it's something that book 1 has that I don't think they've really had in the show after this point. And that is really strong mystery within the show. The mystery around, like, how does Tarlok have these powers? How can he bloodbend without the full moon, as Korra asks? Who is Amon? Like, what's going on here in this book? What are these visions that Korra is having? How do they connect to everything? That's what book 1 has that some of the other books don't have. Book 3 attempts to have a little bit of a mystery with, like, why did the Red Lotus really want Korra? But it ends up not really being anything that interesting in the end. This just, I think, nails it. Big fight. As Korra's about to win the fight, huge reveal. The technique that's banned in the city, bloodbending, comes back. Boom, Tarlok has it. And because of this, he has basically shown Korra the one technique that will basically lose him everything. If she tells the people in the city that he has bloodbending, it's kind of over for him. So he has to keep this undercover. He has to keep Korra captive. And it's a really big thing as basically our hero is taken away, hidden somewhere, as we still have like 4 episodes to go in the season. It's a crazy episode. I really, really like it. Number 4 on my list, Skeletons in the Closet. 111, second last episode of Book 1 air. Again, like the last one, Book 1 has a lot of mystery to it, and this was the one that brought everything together, answered those mysteries, and did it exceptionally well. The Noah Talk Amon and Tarlok flashback with Yukon is, I think, masterfully done. Those 7 and a bit minutes are, I think, some of the best done animation I've ever seen. The combination of the music, the dialogue, the visuals with the animation, and just everything that they're doing here, the timing on it is perfect as well, makes you just get everything. And it really comes together nicely. Just the explanation behind why a bender hates other benders, why he's using his bending to take out other benders, why he hates it so much. Such an important thing to explain, and I think they do it really well. And it all comes down to family. You know, the Water Tribe people very much care about family, and you get that across here. That Yukon, once his powers were taken away by Aang, he left. He changed his face, left, and started a family in the north. He wasn't going to be a criminal anymore. He found a wife, had kids, and it seemed to be going well. But everything changed when the kids had bending. Once he discovered that the kids had bending, and specifically once those kids had the same powers that he had, his special bloodbending powers passed on, it changed everything. The revenge was possible once again, and he basically trained them as tools of revenge for him to get back at the Avatar and for what happened to him. And that ruins the family. He becomes obsessed with that. He obviously doesn't spend a lot of time with the wife after that because he's too much out training the kids. The way he's training the kids isn't very helpful to them in terms of their growth. With regards to the dangers of the technique that they're using, he's forcing them to control animals. He's then forcing them to use their powers on each other. And Tarlok especially doesn't like using this power. He doesn't like exerting his control over other people using the power. Noah Talk kind of does it because he's seen as like the prodigy. Tarlok gets away with stuff because he's not as strong as Noah Talk. But you can see that all the pressure's on Noah Talk. To some extent, Noah Talk takes the pressure away from Tarlok, even though Tarlok gets a lot of the criticism. But it changes Noah Talk, and it turns him into this character who is very kind of cold, and it turns him into a bit of a character like Yukon, that he has to kind of toughen up. And when the big turn happens, that he kind of turns on his father, but he also kind of turns on his brother as well. This person who he's kind of been protecting to some degree against the father, he turns on him and just leaves, but leaves the brother behind as well. It's such a big one because you kind of would have thought, like, would this not be the perfect time to team up? But one thing that Yukon has kind of influenced Noah Talk on is that power means something, and he didn't see his brother as very powerful. And so that, reflecting on it, like, when he takes Tarlok out in episode 9, it's such a big moment because it's just, whoa, like, this character comes back, takes his brother out, captures him, and it's a really huge moment. I think it's just such an important one because it links everything together. The whole fact that, like, Korra's been getting visions of Aang this entire time, visions of Yukon, and why that's meaningful in this scenario, that she's discovered, okay, Tarlok's a bloodbender, Amon has these kind of crazy powers, he's revealed to be a bloodbender, and how it all connects to, like, an issue the previous Avatar had with Yukon, the revenge that he wanted against the Avatar, and the quest that he set his kind of kids on, basically. And also, like, not just the whole idea of Noah Talk growing to hate bending because it ruined his family, but also the second Yukon mentions that his bending was taken away by the Avatar, Noah Talk doesn't see his own power, which we would probably regard as one of the most powerful powers within the Avatar universe, psychic bloodbending. It's pretty much undefeatable, as far as we're aware, basically. He sees the most powerful ability is as the ability to take away bending. So you straight away present why, when he leaves, he would immediately be so focused on going against bending and learning an ability that could take away bending. And while they don't show him donning the mask, they don't show him meeting Hiroshi, they do enough to explain why all of this stuff kind of fits for him as a character. And I think that is so well done. The early parts of the episode, before we get to the flashback, are nicely done as well, because it's kind of Team Avatar separating into their groups, preparing for this final battle. They're not going to have the support of like the United Forces. It's just their kind of little ragtag group that's kind of remained undercover, and they're going to have to do this stealthily, undercover, take out the head. The only way they can win now is basically by, turning the movement against Amon. And they do that because they now know this, that they've decided that they can get an advantage because they now know that Amon is a bender. And they may not be able to prove it exactly, but they can show that some stuff didn't happen to him, that he was never... The story that he tells for why he hates bending isn't the real one. So, fascinating episode, really well done. Number 3 on my list, Korra Alone. Kind of has to be on your list. It's just such a good episode, such a good character episode, and I think it's another one where it links so heavily into episode 1, but also like the finale of book 3, of course. Her injury, but the mystery of just episode 1, Korra's not really in it. Where is Korra? We know she's recovering, of course. And then we catch up with Korra at the end of episode 1, and she's losing this fight to this girl in an earthbending match. Not putting up much of a fight. She's physically, able again. She's not in a wheelchair, but her fire seems to be gone. Like, what's happening here? And then the big question at the end, I wonder where the Avatar is. I wouldn't know. That she's kind of seemingly abandoned that identity. And so, going into this episode, you have so many questions. I think most heavily of all, does Korra want to be the Avatar anymore? Has whatever's happened to her basically made her decide that that's a role that she's not going to want to take up anymore, or what? And so I love that the answer is ultimately that, yes, more than anything else, Korra wants to be the Avatar again. It's just, in her mind, she isn't ready for that yet. At her recovery, she may have recovered to some degree, but she is not ready to fully come back as the Avatar, because she places so much expectation on herself, and other people place expectations on her, and she can't live up to them at that point in time. And she doesn't want another situation like what happened with the thief on that island, where she is going to basically be insulted. Are you actually the Avatar? You couldn't even take out those thieves. In even more difficult situations. So she goes undercover, and she goes on this quest to basically try and figure out what's wrong. Try and fix the last bits of her recovery on her own, without people knowing that she's the Avatar, and it's not working. And it all kind of leads up to the fact that we link in with where we were in episode 1 with her, and we move on to her going to meet Toph, and Toph is going to be someone who helps her on her way to her recovery. Plus, earlier on in the episode, we got how she, got through the physical stages of her recovery in the Water Tribes. The help from her parents, the help from Katara, and some very emotional scenes as she kind of gradually regains the ability to walk and kind of move around, her bending. But there's something there. It's like a mental issue. It's a spiritual block as well. And ultimately that is the case. There's still something physical there with the little bits of metal still left in her. There's a spiritual block present as well, which is restricting her, bending and spiritual powers. And it takes until episode 9. It takes like the events of episode 3 and 4 and 9 to fully resolve everything going into the final. And it's such a well done kind of arc for her as a character in book 4. But it wouldn't, without this episode, I don't think it would have had the impact, because presenting so much of this episode just Korra on her own, and her own feelings on things, the visions that she's having of the way she was hurt, and the intrigue just about how is she feeling and all this stuff, is so well done. And again, coming back to the whole idea of, I love how they just straight away presented she wants to be the Avatar, but can't at this point in time, because she has such high expectations of herself. So Korra Alone is my number 3 pick here. Excellent episode. Number 2 on my list is K214, Light in the Dark, Book 2, Spirits Finale. A lot of people may disagree with this. They don't rate this one as highly as me. I don't think anyone I don't think there are many fans out there who heavily dislike or hate this episode, but I definitely don't think people rate it as highly as I do. But I love this episode. One, I'm super into the spiritual side of Avatar and all that sort of stuff, and that episode gives me a lot of information on that front. But also, I think it's just an amazing conclusion to book 2. I think it resolves most of the key issues really well. How we end this book, the impact, big things happened, big things stay like they happened. There's no like, oh, this thing happened, but then we reversed it at the last minute. No, the Korra is still without the past lives. Like, that is a thing that continues after this episode. The spirit portals being left open changes everything going forward. We obviously get the harmonic convergence, having brought airbenders back. Spirits are now more present around the world, and just things are changing. It is a new era, and it feels like that. And I don't think any of the other finales really quite have that feel to them, where like it's such a big thing that the loss in this battle just changes everything, because this is a light and dark battle. This is on the level of this isn't just a villain with some strong bending abilities. This is the spirit of darkness trying to take over the world for 10,000 years. This is such a big, heavy issue here, cataclysmic basically, and it definitely feels like that. Opening up the episode with Korra kind of waking up, needing to be healed by Kaya, and immediately realizing, am I going to be the Avatar who basically ends the Avatar cycle? Is it going to end on my watch? And her just feeling complete and utter defeat in this moment. And it taking Tenzin helping her based on what Aang told him in the previous episode. And just a simple but wonderful idea that, it's more about who you are than what you are. Korra, you are not just the Avatar, that is an aspect of you, but you are you. You're Korra, you're strong on your own, you have your own spirit, even without Rava, and there's still power left in you to do this. And I think it works so perfectly because, obviously, the Book 1 finale got a ton of criticism for the instant reversal on Korra getting her bending back. But I think that was so much like a thing that was absolutely planned. It was meant to feel that way. That Korra got her connection to the Avatars, and it proved that when you have a connection to the past lives and all their experience, they can help you. When something like that happens and they have experience with it, the past lives can help you get past some of those issues. Like they instantly basically just get rid of the block that she's gone through because Aang has experience with energy bending. But here, we put Korra in a situation where all of that stuff is gone. Like, she literally cannot use Rava or the past lives experiences. It is all on her alone to do this herself. And it is the complete kind of bookmark to the Book 1 finale with regards to, one, Korra is helped by the Avatar. Secondly, Korra on her own helps to basically help the Avatar to survive as a thing going forward. And it's so well done. I love the kind of callbacks with the Tree of Time, connecting to cosmic energy, and how that links into obviously Aang and the Guru, and also connecting to cosmic energy and how important that is. The idea of your cosmic self, it makes sense because obviously the Tree of Time is basically established to be the most powerful object within the Avatar universe. An object that is capable of containing Vatu for 10,000 years. An object that is capable of being the thing that fundamentally connects the spirit world and the physical world, that even allows them to in any way interact. That's a pretty crazy thing, and of course it makes sense that it would allow you to connect with the cosmic energy of the universe, and how Korra does it. It's a giant cosmic Korra. We get the big battle, and I know a lot of people don't like the big battle, but I do, because it's a book called Spirits. It's a book about spirits. It's a book about the world ending. Like, the scale of things in this finale are so big that I don't think you could have just ended it with a Korra Unalaq waterbending fight or whatever. You had to do something big. This is harmonic convergence we're dealing with here. The planets have aligned. We've got a dark avatar. We've got a light avatar, but the avatar aspect of the light avatar is gone. But we've got Korra imbued with cosmic energy. We're going to have a big spiritual battle to determine the fate of the world. To me, that makes complete sense. I don't get what fight people were looking for. I thought it was really cool to just see this huge battle in UA Bay, Korra basically getting very physical in the spiritual battle as well, like doing some kind of like MMA type moves. The only huge like spiritual thing was the initial laser blast, but they immediately transitioned away from that. Um, I loved Janora's arrival and the music and how the explanation came across. I do think it's definitely an episode where you really need to think about things to get what's going on. But I think the episode presents the flashbacks to beginnings well enough that it makes complete sense what's actually going on here. They reference the fact that Rava and Vatu can never be destroyed, that they'll be reborn within the other one if they are kind of defeated. And I think that's enough information to give you the idea that Cosmic Korra is looking for Rava within Unavatu, can't quite find her because it's such a dark time for the world because Rava's been destroyed. Janora adds that extra little bit of light to push it over the edge where Korra can see Rava and pulls her out. I think that makes complete sense. And it is an excellent use of Janora, having set up the entire book that Janora is a very spiritual character and that there's something important with her that still has to be done. They set that up in the previous episode, that Janora still has something to do, and we see it happen here. This plus ending the episode with Korra keeping the spirit portals open. That to me is the big moment. That Korra not only defeated Unalaq using his own technique, but she used basically the ideals that he presented to her early on. That she could see the good of his ideals that he took too far and used them to basically decide to keep the spirit portals open. I like that before Toph points out to her the fact that she's learned from all of the villains. Unalaq is actually the first villain who she is aware that she learns from. She uses his technique, she uses his ideals, keeps the portals open, using the fact that maybe he was right, that we should make an effort to, try something to reunite with the spirits. And it works so well. The speech that she gives at the end, her basically saying that we're in a new era, we're entering a new era. And changing slightly the role of the Avatar. I will no longer be the bridge between the two worlds. That she's not basically just saying, I'm not going to be the Avatar anymore. She's not going to be that role anymore. Because there's no need for everyone to go through the Avatar to deal with any sort of a spiritual matter. That she's the only one who could possibly deal with spiritual matters. That now we're in an era where humans can go to one of the spirit portals, go into the spirit world. Anyone can do that if they want to. Spirits can come out of the spirit world into the physical world at will. That there is no need for a bridge. So, hugely impactful episode. That's why it's my number 2 pick. My number 1 pick, pretty obvious to anyone who's watched my channel, 208 Beginnings Part 2. I don't want to talk too long about Beginnings because it's definitely one of the ones where I could go on for like an hour about this episode. I'll just shorten it down to basically, I love that at a base level, the origin of the Avatar story was fundamentally about the relationship between a human and a spirit. That there is all the big stuff that happens, the big battle, the kind of craziness of like harmonic convergence and so on. But fundamentally what it came down to is that it was Rava and Wan's relationship, friendship, and how it came together to eventually them entering the battle together, and in a final moment kind of merging together, becoming the Avatar. But even then, it taking until basically the death of Wan in a kind of darker moment where like he wanted to accomplish so much as the Avatar, and kind of dying while not being able to bring peace to the world, and Rava kind of returning what Wan thought her to him, the idea of hope, that he thought her had to have hope, never give up. And in the end, she's the one who kind of helps him as well. That, we'll be together for all of your lifetimes and we'll never give up. It's such a nice way to kind of explain how the Avatar cycle begins. Just that the first Avatar dying, having not brought peace to the world, Rava starts that because of their friendship. And it's all about how you look about where it was versus where it is now. Rava was pretty kind of against humans, maybe not as much as other spirits, but she didn't seem to respect them a lot. And just the fact that Wan, as this character who, at the very least, tried to be friendly with spirits, tried to bridge that gap, it made sense that he was the one who ultimately like really formed this friendship with Rava and helped her so much, and hence why she would help him. It's such a powerful episode. I love the animation, the music especially, the way the plot goes, the lore implications of so much of the details here with the Lion Turtles, seeing the early nations and early benders and stuff like that. I think there's so much to be discussed about this episode still, and it probably still will continue to be one of the more discussed episodes, just because they don't present everything about the world 10,000 years ago, and so every detail of this episode, there's something of note to it. And for me, that's exactly what I want out of an episode, especially a kind of backstory episode like this that gives us information on an important time period for the world. And not to mention, it's not just a good story on its own, it links into Book 2 in that it informs Korra's opinions on harmonic convergence, on Rava, on the decision to keep the spirit portals open or closed, and it links into Book 2. It's not just, oh, the Avatar origin story happens to be in Book 2. No, it's an important part of Book 2, even for the Korra section of the story. So, it's my favourite episode by far. In the comments, let me know what your thoughts were on my list of 5 episodes. Let me know if there's any specific episodes you want to know why potentially didn't make my list, if you rate them highly. Let me know your top 5 lists, and so on. We'll do the Avatar top 5 episodes next week, maybe later on this week, depending on what videos I have to do. But yeah, that has been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.